sit in front of your camera. Thank you very much for preparing yourself to join this conference. It's a pleasure to meet you here, and welcome to today's international conference on online learning transformation in global competition era. So actually, this is the second series of the international conference on the field progressive and fun education. We call it the FIS Profanedu, conducted by Association of Education and Teacher Training Institution of Muhammadiyah Higher Education Indonesia. So actually, the call for paper of the FIS Profanedu is still open, and the scopes of the paper should be related to education design, to respond COVID-19 pandemic, innovation in education, technology-based education, Christian education, culture-based education, IoT in education, AI in education, science and humanity literacy, character education, and the last one is blended learning. So we have a lot of topics that we have to cover, and all the topics are interesting and necessary to discuss nowadays. And just to remind you, the first Profile Edu will be held next month on 8th of August 2020. So please check our website on profileedu.id for more information, and don't forget to submit your wonderful paper. Okay, Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Peace be upon you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let us thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, which gave us blessing and healthy, so we can gather on this conference, and also to our greatest Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who guided us to the right way. So good morning. We are delighted to welcome you to International Conference on Online Learning Transformation in Global Competition Era. First of all, I'm pleased to introduce you our chairman of the conference, as well as the chairman of the Association of Education and Teacher Training Institution of Muhammadiyah Higher Education, Professor Harun Joko Praitno. Hello, Professor.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Salam. He is also the Dean of the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta. He is a professor in the field of language education, communication, and media, and also pragmatic. So secondly, we have Professor Amra Sabik Aliari from Columbia University, United States of America. Hello, Professor Amra.
Hello.
Okay, it's nice to meet you, Prof. And good night in the US. Okay. And then we are moving to the Europe. We also have Professor Warsito. Hello, Professor.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. He is
nice to meet you all. Okay.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. He is the Education and Culture Attaché of Indonesia in France. And pleased to see you, Prof. And welcome to the conference. And we also have very wonderful speakers. Another speaker from Indonesia. We have Bapak Erwin Akib from Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar, Bapak Dr. Desvian from Universitas Profesor Dr. Hamka, Ibu Dina from Banjarmasin, Bu Ernita, Bapak Abdul, Ibu Siti, dan Ibu Ervina, dan Ibu Alfia. Hello, all the speakers.
Assalamualaikum. Good morning, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And also the honorable all lecturers, researchers, students, teachers, and the honorable all participants of the conference. Okay, my name is Hardika Dwi Hermawan, and I will be your moderator for today's conference. I work at Informatic Engineering Education, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta, and I'm so honored to be hosting this session today. So I'd like to read our today's agenda. The first one is opening, and followed by singing national anthem of Indonesia and Sang Surya, and then opening speech from the chairman, and then a speaker's presentation, and the last one is closing. Let's start this event with Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Excellencies, speakers, participants, and ladies and gentlemen, the second agenda is singing national anthem of Indonesia and Sang Surya. So you are kindly requested to stand up. Okay. To listen to the opening speech delivered by the chairman. Please welcome Professor Harun Joko Praitno. Prof, over to you.
Okay, thank you Hardika. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, good morning everybody. To all, I'm very nice to meet you all as invited speakers, all participants. Especially Amra from Columbia University. I'm very nice to meet you today.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you for inviting me.
And then Prof. Asito, terima kasih Prof.
Thank you very much, Pak Harun. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you to all today. And I hope you all together we can join the conference meeting. And I hope not only today we join in this meeting. I hope next period, 11 August, I will be run a conference third cyclus. And once again, good morning from Indonesia, from Solo especially, and maybe in USA, good afternoon, yeah?
Good evening, yeah. It's
good evening.
11 p.m.
So, long distance, yeah? Long distance, yeah? Long distance, but near distance, yeah? Near distance. Once more again, come on, let's start by Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. And next time, please, Mas Tika to running to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Harum, from the opening speech. And Excellency Speaker, participants, ladies and gentlemen. And the purpose of this conference is to bring together academia, researchers, education enthusiasts, practitioners, and policymakers who are responsible for delivering sustainable development in the field of education and also IT. So today's topic is about online learning transformation in global computation era. As we know that the global lockdown of education institutions due to the pandemic is going to cause major and likely unequal interruptions in students' learning, disruption in internal assessment, and the cancellation of public assessment for qualification or their replacement by an inferior alternative. Instead, school, colleges, and educational institutions in Indonesia and across the world have been quick to shift teaching and learning online. In fact, online learning relevance to a large and diverse country like Indonesia that has a wide gap of IT infrastructure and internet connection has been hotly debated for a few years now. However, the demand of good quality, outcome-oriented, and also an accessible education typically outstrips supply. With COVID-19, the education sector has found itself compelled to champion its own transformation. Educational institutions of every size and kind are finding it valuable to shift classes to virtual platforms. Teaching is moving online and on untested and unprecedented scale. Student assessment are also moving online, like semester examination at UMS, with a lot of trial and error and uncertainty for everyone. Many assessments have simply been cancelled, like the national examination in Indonesia. Importantly, this interruption will not just be a short-term issue, but can also have long-term consequences for the affected cohort and are likely to increase inequality. So this conference could be the best room to discuss what can be done to mitigate this impact through online learning transformation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the first today's speaker is Professor Amra Sabiq Al-Yarif from Teachers College, Columbia University, USA. Professor Amra Sabiq Al-Yarif wears many titles, all of them with authenticity and distinction. Professor Sabiq Al-Yarif grew up in Bihać, Bosnia and Herzegovina. She earned a bachelor degree from Brown University, USA, and later she obtained 2 master degrees in economic and political development and comparative and international education, and also a doctoral degree in comparative and international education from Columbia University. Currently, she is a professor at Columbia University Teacher College, working on understanding how and why society fell apart and what role education can play in rebuilding decimated countries. She has published on education-related issues and has lectured around the world to adult and adolescent audience. In her students' feedback, Professor Amra Sabiq Al-Yarif is consistently praised as one of the most inspiring professors they have encouraged. So it's really wonderful and special speaker. This an authority on rebuilding societies and civic institutions will advise is sought by U.S. policymakers and the U.S. Department of State in her capacity of an educational diplomacy expert as well as by leaders of NGOs, foreign government. Okay. Before the presentation begin, let's know the regulation, how the presentation will be going on. This conference is divided into 3 sessions. The first session contains 2 speakers, and 2 speakers. The first one is Professor Amra, and then Professor Warsito, and then followed by question and answer. After that, we'll go going to another 3 speakers, and then question and answer to give you an opportunity to ask question to our speaker, and then go to the last 4 speakers. We hope that you will take advantage of the opportunity to find out more. Okay, now allow me to welcome the first speaker, Her Excellency Professor Amra Sabik Aliaris, to deliver her presentation. She's going to present his topic about her experience and pedagogy of working with students at Columbia University and around the world, and how Professor Amra can get them to learn by inspiring them. Please join me in welcoming Professor Amra with a round of applause. Professor Amra, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am going to share my presentation screen with you. And hopefully you can see that. So good evening for me and good morning for you, all of you. I appreciate that lovely introduction. I'm going to say again, my name is Amra Sabik Reyes, and I am a professor at Columbia University in Education Policy and Social Analysis Department, Teachers College, which is one of the oldest and most important graduate schools of education in the United States. And today I'm going to talk to you about learning beyond the classroom. So whether it's online or in person, really how we can extend learning experiences for young adults, for children, and how I do that for my own students. And I'm going to talk about some challenges and some opportunities that I see in those processes. So what is my agenda today? I first want to start by saying that I am delighted to be with you today, even if only virtually. I do hope to visit Indonesia in the future in person. And I want to begin by thanking Professor Harun Yoko Praitno, Professor Muhammad Sahriandi Adantoro, and the Association of Educational Institutes of Muhammadiyah Universities for hosting this event. I am also grateful for the opportunity to share some of my insights on education based on my own international work and how some of that work can apply to these challenging times that we all are experiencing around the world. I have limited time today, so I will not go through many years worth of research that I have done. I will only touch on a few examples while highlighting and really focusing on my latest project that I think is relevant to our discussion today. And it is a book titled The Cat I Never Named, A True Story of Love, War, and Survival. The book will be published worldwide by Bloomsbury. And for those of you who may have read Harry Potter, Bloomsbury is Harry Potter's publisher, on September 8th, 2020. This is the first time I'm speaking to the audiences in Indonesia, though I have had the number of students at Columbia University from Indonesia, and I had mentioned that early on in our discussion. So I will begin my presentation by introducing myself and sharing both some of my personal and professional background with you, because both bear a great deal of relevance to the book project I will discuss today. As was already mentioned, I was born and raised in Bosnia and Herzegovina, where I lived through a horrific war, genocide, and ethnic cleansing of Bosnian Muslims between 1992 and 1996. And as you can see in the map that I share, Bosnia is situated right across Italy. It is in the region called the Balkans and in the region called Eastern Europe. This is one of the photos, one of the very few photos that I have from right after the war in Bosnia, where you can see me standing in front of a destroyed building, just to give you a sense of the level of destruction that my country experienced. And here's another photo just showing a regular neighborhood, and again, the level of destruction that we had experienced during that war. This photo was taken by British journalist Ed Vuljami, who broke the news for the very first time that in Bosnia, in my country, Serbs organized concentration camps that were organized to execute and ethnically cleanse all of the Bosnian Muslims, myself included. As was mentioned in the lovely introduction earlier today, I came to the United States in 1996, right after surviving genocide in Bosnia. I came on a full scholarship. I was one of the top math and physics students in Bosnia at the time, and I began my studies in economics. And in December of '99, I graduated with a degree in economics from Brown University. After my graduation, I worked on Wall Street. I went into the area of investment banking, leveraged finance, and leveraged buyouts. Some of the large-scale projects I had worked included projects in value from $1 billion to $14 billion in various industries, from agriculture to communication, oil, and gas. But I continued to have a profound interest and concern for the state of education in many developing countries around the world. I knew what was the value of my own education and the social mobility it afforded me. So this led to my return to Columbia University, where I decided to pursue first master's in economic and political development, focusing on Persian Gulf as a region, and then another master's of philosophy and a doctorate in international and comparative education, focusing again on economic development. Today, I am a professor in education policy and social analysis department at Columbia University. I am also a project director at the Center for Benefit Cost Studies in Education, as well as a faculty member at the Harriman Institute for Russian, Eurasian, and Eastern European Studies at Columbia University. Over the years, I have designed and taught many courses. They have ranged from applied research methods and statistics courses to a first US-based course on corruption in education. And here, because we don't have time to go into details on various projects I have done over the years, I am just sharing logos of some of the organizations, institutions, companies, governments that I have had worked for. In the event that any of you are ever interested in learning more about it, you're always welcome to reach out to me and contact me directly. And this is just another page of organizations that I have collaborated with over the years. So what is my research agenda? My research agenda is really to transform societies by changing paradigms. In my research, teaching, and policy work in education, I focus on two primary goals. One, I want to understand how and why societies fall apart and what role education can play in rebuilding them, but also socially transforming societies after crises, like this pandemic, for instance, or post-war. Secondly, I'm interested in changing broader paradigms. And paradigms, for those of you for whom English may not be your forte, it simply means ways in which we think about the world. So I want to focus on changing the ways in which we think about the world. And specifically, I want to focus on links between education and other societal issues like elite formation, social transformation, social mobility, educational corruption, and particularly favor reciprocations, marginalization, exclusion in education, and how they can be linked to radicalization. And I'm just going to share some of the examples where I worked on changing the way we think about specific problems. For instance, educational corruption's role in adversely impacting social mobility. I have studied educational corruption in Bosnia, in Bosnia's higher education. Over the last couple of months, I worked on writing a research study for the Oxford Research Encyclopedia of Education, analyzing 20 years of literature and research produced on the topic of educational corruption. I also have studied educational policies that are aimed at helping the poor, but sometimes they end up, instead of helping, end up excluding the poor. For instance, I worked with the Mongolia's government to understand and analyze and improve their school uniform policy. Financial inclusion of women is another topic that I have studied and looked specifically at how educating poor women can impact their participation in financial system. I did that in the context of India. I have also looked at educational policies on inclusion that have good intentions, but sometimes problematic implementation that doesn't necessarily lead to desired effects. For instance, I worked with a former student of mine on looking and analyzing educational policy in Indonesia that calls for the country's universities to ensure that at least 20% of the newly admitted students are poor, but that doesn't always happen. I've also worked on understanding marginalization, exclusion, and radicalization of Muslim youths by analyzing their educational displacement. This is a concept that I had designed to understand why is it that some students, particularly in the context of Western education, particularly Muslim students, can sometimes feel displaced from their classroom discussions because their views or identities are not respected or included in the classroom discussions and the classroom work. So my goal is to really socially transform societies by creating new ways of thinking, particularly amongst the youth about societal problems we haven't solved yet. So how do I do that? I do that through my teaching at Columbia or my work around the world, where I create opportunities in and outside of the classroom, online and in person, for young people to change their ways of thinking. Through my research, I create content that's engaging, relatable, but always educational. If content is not engaging, if it's not inclusive, and if it's not relevant to the students' lived experiences, youths will disengage via what I call educational displacement, and eventually they turn to alternative ideas. Sometimes they simply turn to internet and activities outside of school, which is what I call educational replacement. In some cases, students will even drop out from school. In other cases, they may even radicalize. So I'm going to talk about one example of how I intend to teach about educational success, social mobility, exclusion, Islamophobia, and genocide, all through storytelling. In the United States, much research has been done on the question of social mobility. And that simply means movement up the social strata through education, and particularly the role that the elite schools have in producing the elites in societies. The elite schools in America are often key to reproducing the existing power structures. In particular, the elite prep schools help produce these unique graduates. They have wonderful leadership skills and they have broad knowledge. If you look at this particular chart, you can look at the x-axis, horizontal line at the very bottom, that indicates what the parent income rank is. And parent income rank here simply means if you look to the far right side, you're going to find those parents who are wealthy. If you look to the far left side, you're going to find those parents that are poor. On the y-axis, we have on this chart represented the child income rank. So at the very top are children who after college end up generating significant income or high income. And at the bottom, you have a representation of those children who after college do not make as much income and remain poor. The lines represent different qualities in education, different types of schooling that one can obtain in the United States. I'm interested in the top, and I want you to look at the very top line. The top red line represents Ivy League schools. You can see that it says on the right side, Ivy plus. Ivy League schools are Brown University, Columbia University, Harvard University, Yale University, Princeton University, the very top and the best educational institutions in the United States. And what this chart suggests is, if you look at the red line, that whether your parents are poor or your parents are wealthy, those children, those young adults who have the opportunity to attend the best quality institutions have a chance to make equivalent high income. So somebody like me who came to the United States on scholarship, who came from a poor background, because I went to Ivy League schools, I have now ability to move up the social strata in the United States and really make as much income as somebody who was born wealthy. So what this suggests that social mobility in the United States is possible, but it is only possible if one has access to the best quality education. Also, in broader research on education, some researchers argue that there is a change occurring in recent years with the rise of the West. And the rise of the West means that there are other emerging economies that are gaining strength, and they're capturing increasing portions of the global economic output, while developed economies are losing significance. Think, for instance, of the United States versus China. There is a significant tension in competition because China is rising in comparison to the United States. So that change and ability of these developing countries to rise in terms of their economic output is affected by the expansion of education, by the quality of education, by democratization of knowledge that has happened because of technology in general, globalization, expansion of global markets, trade. The elite educational institutions in the United States recognize this change, and they are increasingly adapting to the changing global circumstances to ensure their elite students are capable to engage and compete globally. So how are the elite schools in the United States adjusting to these changing global circumstances? What are these elite schools doing? The elite institutions recognize that it's important to diversify their student pools in terms of race, religion, gender, ethnicity, international background, social class, from which students come from. And competence is increasingly driving one's ability to find a job, one's employability. As an example, in Silicon Valley, some of you who are in technology may have heard of area in California where most tech companies are. 74% of computer and math-based jobs are taken by individuals who are foreign-born. So they were born in another country. They may have their green card or U.S. citizenship or some kind of work visa, but they were born elsewhere, not in the United States. The elite institutions are also diversifying narratives and content in the classroom to ensure students gain broader knowledge. Also, with growing diversity, schools want to ensure their students do not feel, which is what I call this feeling, they want to make sure students don't have this feeling of being educationally displaced, that they don't belong, that they don't have a sense of belonging in the classroom. But one issue that the United States continues to face, in addition to other forms of racism that you, I'm sure, have seen on the news in Indonesia, is Islamophobia and anti-Muslim bias, which manifest in varied forms. So here's some data that I can share with you. Total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States is a statement by the US President Donald Trump, who said this when he was a candidate for the US president. For 2016, in the United States, 24.5% of victims of anti-religious hate crimes were Muslim. 83% of Americans are very or somewhat concerned about extremism in the name of Islam. Interestingly, the majority of college-educated Americans don't think there's much support for extremism amongst American Muslims. On the other hand, terrorist groups also leverage these anti-Muslim biases and trends to help them recruit marginalized Muslim youths. So a challenge and opportunity for an educator like me is to think about, number one, how do we counter Islamophobia and anti-Muslim bias today, and early and effectively in education and in and out of the classroom? And two, how do we change minds of those who are biased against Muslims? And three, but also, how do we counter radicalization of Muslim youths that may occur as a consequence to these biases and tensions between the West and predominantly Muslim world? My answer to this question is to use education and classroom creatively to change ways we think, particularly change youth's mindsets and socially transform those who have those biases. One example of how I tackle these complex issues is in a powerful and innovative and engaging way is my latest book. The Cat I Never Named is a book that tells my own story as a Muslim teen and how I survived genocide in Bosnia. In 1992, I was a teen in Bihać, Bosnia, when my world changed. Muslim refugees from other Bosnian cities started arriving, fleeing Serbian persecution. Serbs were an ethnic group that wanted to create an ethnically clean Greater Serbia, which really meant killing all Bosnian Muslims. My city was besieged by Serbs military for 1,150 days, and we lived with minimal food, no electricity, and under constant bombing. Every day, someone I loved, someone I knew, or I played with was killed. Today, you may notice that I am wearing a white on my left arm. I'm wearing a white armband. In parts of Bosnia that Serbs occupied, Muslims like me were ordered to wear white armbands to signal to Serbs that we could be killed or raped. The act of cutting this band from an old Bosnian undershirt evoked pain for me. But with it, I honored the victims of Bosnian genocide and all victims of merciless killings driven by hate, racism, and discrimination around the globe. In this book, in addition to showing how damaging hate can be, I also demonstrate that there is light even in the darkest of times by introducing the warm bonfire eyes of a stray cat, the little calico. And for those of you who may not know what calico means, if you just look at the cover of my book, you can see a cat that has a number of colors. That is simply a type of cat that is called calico. So the little calico had followed the refugees into my city, and this little calico lost her own family. At first, my family and I didn't have the money to keep a pet. But with gentle charm, this kitty finds her way into everyone's heart in my family, and after a few near miracles, when she seems to save my family, we couldn't turn her away. Through it all, I never wavered in my determination to obtain an education, learning on my own when we couldn't go to school. So this book teaches many things. One of them is that anti-Muslim bias and hatred in general can lead to brutality and bloodshed. 2, it also shows my persistence to obtain an education despite the circumstances. The story teaches resilience. It inspires teens and young adults through a powerful and engaging narrative, and sometimes even funny moments of life during the Bosnian War. So by telling a story that enables the readers to empathize with my struggles to survive and to learn, despite my home being bombed and my family members and friends being killed, I accomplished several important goals, including 1, I change minds, particularly of those who may have had anti-Muslim bias, because I teach them in an engaging and powerful way about devastating effects of hatred. 2, I prevent radicalization of young individuals by showing them how I respond to being a target of violence and bias. And 3, I guide their learning and model through my story that the best response to violence and hatred is self-empowerment and education. The Cat I Never Named has already been earning recognition, even though it's coming out in September. It has been sent to the most important book critics in the United States. It has been selected as the Junior Library Guild Gold Standard for 2020. It has received starred reviews, but forward reviews. Starred reviews in the United States mean the highest form of praise for a book in the literary and publishing world. Just to read a quote for you from one of the reviews: gripping and achingly humane, The Cat I Never Named captures what it means to face an ideological tide bent on your personal eradication. There's another review by a well-known Kirkus Reviews that have also called my book unforgettable. And I include a link for you here if you're interested in reading a full review. So in addition to teaching students how to empathize, how to remain motivated and focused on their learning inside and outside classroom, despite the circumstances, despite the wars or pandemics that they may encounter. In addition to teaching them how to overcome hardship, build resilience, and ultimately succeed in life. The book also includes additional study resources for students, professors, and teachers interested in learning further about Bosnian genocide. If you're interested in buying my book for your students, schools, universities, you're welcome to contact me directly, and I will connect you with my publisher. I had spoken to them and told them I would be speaking in Indonesia today, and they said that they have special discounts for international schools. So if you're interested, you're always welcome to contact me via email. If you would like to see a video of me reading a segment from this book, I include one link in this presentation. But even if you just Google the name of the book or you search on internet my name, several videos will come up. And if you want to remain connected, you can always find me and follow me on Twitter, where you can check for any updates that I post. You can also check my website, which is simply my last name.org. And if you wish to order a book for yourself, I include here one website where you can do that individually as well. But again, there are many websites around the world where the book can be purchased. So that is all. I want to thank you again for listening, and I look forward to any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Professor Amra. It's such an inspiring and informative story and presentation.
Thank you.
So for you guys, I have sent the book's link on the Zoom chat, so you can check the Amra's book on the link that I have sent. So thank you very much, Professor Amra. So for you that have a question, you also can write down on the chat room, and I will be following up your question on question and answer session. However, if you'd like to ask directly, please open your mic at question and answer session. And thank you. So after Professor Amra talked about education and social transformation in the past and now and its challenges and opportunities, the next speaker is Professor Warsito from France. Hello, Professor.
Okay, hello.
Oh, hello. Okay, he is the Education and Culture Attaché of Indonesia in France. Professor Warsito earned bachelor degree in physics from Universitas Brawijaya, Malang, Indonesia, and obtained master from Université de Caen in France in 1999. And then in 2003, he achieved doctoral degree also from the same university in France, Université de Caen. Professor Warsito is a former Dean of Mathematics and Science faculty at Universitas Lampung, but currently he is Educational and Culture Attaché of Indonesian Embassy in France. Please welcome Professor Warsito. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Hardika, and I will share with all of you my presentation file. And excuse me, and then. Okay. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much especially for Professor Harun that inviting me to give this conference. And firstly, I will. Good evening, Professor Amra from Columbia University, and all of the keynote speaker in this conference, and all of the participants. So thank you very much for this special event for me, especially because you know that my job now is in the negotiation in the education and culture as attaché and Indonesian Embassy in France. So in this morning in French Paris time, I will give some the experience how actually the online learning transformation in global competition era that now in France this topic is also became the important thing that result. I mean that in the education system in France. And just now we have learned from the Professor Amra about the education, social mobility, and transformation. But now I will speak about the key element, a principle in online learning, in blended learning model. That actually, you know, that now after the COVID-19 pandemic, we have the, I mean that in the education system, we have two systems of education, in online and also offline system. So we call now a blended learning model. So I will speak in this topic because this topic is also in the important step in French education community now. And my name is Warsito. I am attaché for education and culture in Indonesian Embassy in Paris, and I also professor in Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, University of Lampung. So, okay, I will start my presentation. That for introduction, that actually in Indonesia, learning is not really new model. You know that we have distant learning by all of the material sent by post, and then in the 1995 we started the online learning system in Indonesia by using the ICT, informatic and communication system. So why actually the system becomes more discussed now and become the trend of education model? So we know that after this confinement period, we may be required to continue on using distance education and combine it with face-to-face system. So we call it blending learning on in French, apprentissage hybride. So this is the model that now we practice in the education model. So distance learning and training or online learning brings effectiveness of learning actually. We need to integrate in our education or teaching practice. So actually there are a few principles to follow in order to make online training in the distance learning system works well. So I will give just a key element of online and distance learning that we can discuss together. And this topic actually I have in the many conference in France and meeting that I joined with the French minister and French universities. So just for our I mean that distance learning in Indonesia has been officially introduced since 1984 by the establishment for the Open University. You know that we have Open University in Indonesia, and to provide broader opportunity for Indonesian citizens, and then to provide higher education services for those who works and all the reason. So they do the education in their livelihood, and then to develop academic and professional education program according to the real needs of the development. So we know that online learning during the COVID-19 period become the main type of learning which is used by all the education institutions in the world. So this is our background actually in this situation. And education standard that we know in the school and campus is exactly completely different from the education on training by course institution. Is we have this I mean that the information, and then the purpose of education. I mean that in our law in Indonesia we call UU Sistiknas, the system of education in Indonesia. That actually the goal of the education is how to create the student to be a man with faith and very good ability, noble, healthy, knowledgeable, and capable, creative, independent, also become democratic and responsibility citizen. So this is the goal of our education in Indonesia. It's not just the skill, but also how all of the students have the fight and to feel good elementary. This is the student competence that we have in of our education system, that we have multiple intelligences, and especially in our country that we have uh, religion in our country. So we have the competence, principal competence is the spiritual competence, and all of the multiple competence, self-smart, and then and the musical, and then interpersonal, visual, spatial, and all of this multiple intelligences. So our principle that all of our students, they should have the spiritual competence and multiple intelligences. So we come back to the system of online education system, and we have also the essential criteria for blended learning. Firstly, the content of educational quality, I mean that video content, that all the content of online training and education can be sent by the video content, and we have this experience. And sometimes we should have the problem with our quality of video, so we should think that the perfectness of our quality of video, such as good sound, and then image quality, and accessibility, and consistent explanation. So this is the important thing for the quality of the video. So we should have also the feedback from students, how actually the quality of our video. This is the first principle in this I mean the online learning system. And then the second, the keep each student, I mean that that sometimes that the online learning system, the disadvantage is offline learning course is relatively passive in the watching content. So the student is just watch the video. So really sometimes this problem is passive. So we should ask our student that to say that they have watched it. I mean that just for controlling this our student. And then we have also our problem that sometimes we should how we can maintain the student present in our class. That in the distant education and training, the present is manifested by regular reminders. So we have here in France, there's a discussion in the education that there are many teachers had lost their students in the transition to distance education. In the class, they lost their student. So this is the problem now. So how the student who from you have that normally by face-to-face link, student physically present, and then now there's no student in our I mean that in the class. So sometimes the teacher have the problem have lost their students. This is how we can actually maintain the present, the really present, that's our student in our class meeting. And then that the key also of the online learning by the strength of group work, and we should how manifest that our student can work together between them. And so we know that our the learn better in group than alone. So what does this mean in concrete terms? That students learn best when they have the opportunity to think and work in group, 2 or 3 or more students, so they can exchange the concept, exercises, and the presentation. So this is the principal step also, the how we can support our student to do work in the group. And then this work, especially when the student in the group have the opportunity to share and then to support each other. That's the important thing. So our students have the many experience in the communication and then discuss the solution of the topic. And we know that this type of this education is very extremely powerful, the group work. And then create a learning community via social network. This is also how in the online learning system that we can also create the social network. I mean that a group with me as the teacher and then all of our students, and we can communicate with them by this social network, because we have many educational platform social network. So we can discuss a problem solving forum, and then a student can ask their question and interact. And the role of the teacher is just to moderate the discussion and provide clarification. But you know that social network is just the, I mean that for the clarification, it's just not decided to really give some topic. It's just the educational system. And we have also the social network, Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter, and all of the system of social network software. And then also that we should have the we should manage our time or our agenda, because we cannot actually available 24/7, and we can not transfer our class into individual interaction with 30 or maybe 40 students. So we should have the manage good time management in our mind. And you know, sometimes we have the advantage of the community where students support each other, because it is easy to be absorbed and overflowed poorly managed, and community can quickly become time consuming if we cannot manage our time. And sometimes if we respond to each message in the discussion forum, that you know that we will be crushed in this situation. So our role in the discussion is to monitor discussion and then to intervene its response only when strictly necessary. So this is the system in this educational, I mean that the online system. And then we should have also the clear and realistic target to our student, and a set of explicit expectation for us as a teacher and to our student, how actually we communicate how much time students should spend in the class each week, how much time students spend watching content. This we have this information clearly before our teaching class, and then the student has to watch video maybe 3 times or 4 times. This we should clear before our class meeting. And then request and ask the feedback from the student. You know that asking for feedback, some kind of feedback is essential and offer a double advantage. We know if our distance education is going in the right direction, and then ask the question even if we are using an educational platform is running well, because we are trapped by the belief that if the platform works and then everything is fine. This is not necessarily in the case, because sometimes we have always the problem with our presentation. Then we have rigid present in the giving lessons and asking for exercise report from our students. So actually, we should have the request and consider informal feedback from our student and the class meeting online. And then discover students' way of learning. You know that each student is different and each student have their own way of learning. Self-sufficiency does not mean learning to manage, but developing autonomy of students is getting them to know each other, to make them discover their way of learning and their way of functioning. And students cannot do this alone, especially when they are in a middle or high school. So we should know the situation of such our student, and they need us to offer them a tool uh, to resolve this problem. So discover students' way of learning is very important in the online learning system. We should ask our students if they have the problem, how communication, how about the that technical or maybe the content of our uh, 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 education. So you know that as the conclusion that in this our era by the problem of COVID-19, that the blended learning model, that the offline and online system is the important, that all of us as a teacher should the this experience sandwich, like the sometime we can do by offline, if also sometime we can do by online learning system. And for school or college, the online learning system is only as an arrangement, not as a primary learning model. And the perfection of the content of presentation in the online learning model is an important key. And lastly, the transfer of value is the key of difference between official educational institution and training institution. So we should also think that how we can do the transfer of value to our student perfectly, because this is the problem in the online learning system. We cannot really transfer our values to our student. So this is our indicate in the online learning system, but we should have this how the solution, how we can transfer and how we can evaluate the transfer value, the solution for the transfer value to our students. And this my presentation, and thank you very much. And I give the time to Mr. Hardika as the moderator.
Wow, it's
Thank
perfect,
you very much.
Professor. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Professor Warsito, for the wonderful presentation. And it has given me a new insight about blended learning model and also how to create a learning community via social network and so on. Okay, so Professor Amra and Professor Wasisto, we are going to question and answer session. I'd like to have two questions from the participant. Any participants that want to ask directly to the speakers, please open your mic and don't forget to mention your name and your institution. Okay, there, Olaton for Nigeria. Please open your mic.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was a great presentation. Please, I would like to ask the professor that just presented, when we have a blended method of learning, mostly in the online, how do we ensure discipline? How do we ensure that students are, as he said, that we should engage them? Since we are not seeing them, they are not seeing us. How do we ensure discipline so that the class will not be interrupted or taken for granted? That's my question, please.
Okay.
Okay, so the question from from Nigeria is, how do we ensure that students really engage from online learning?
Okay. Thank you very much for this nice question. You know that this is our problem actually. How we can sure that our student engage our teaching model in online system. So you know that actually we have the community and we have also the I mean that we can communicate with their parents. Their sometimes we should give them the homework, you know, the homework and then the teamwork, and then how actually this is the our art in the online system. But you know, by this situation, the online system is very necessary that we do on this situation. So we can do by blended system. There is the resonance, I think. Okay.
Sorry,
And
Jer from Nigeria. Can you
okay,
mute your mic first?
okay. I thank you. And then
Sorry.
No problem. No worries.
and sometimes this is really our problem. But by the how we are as the teacher actually have the close relation with our students. This is the important one that we do have. And then the second, how actually we can give the homework to our student. And then the third, how also we can give them the teamwork, so we can evaluate the how they can do the solution of teamwork problem. So this is actually how we can evaluate that our student engage with this online system. And you know that sometimes we can do also some question by the parents. You know, we can do communicate with their parents and also their I mean that their parent, and then the student of in the work teamwork group, we can give the some question to them. So this is our art as a teacher, you know. I think this is my and I will share you my presentation, because I give the keywords how we can actually do this situation problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Wasito. Maybe Professor Amra, do you have another perspective for the question?
Could you repeat for me a question? I was looking at on different questions, and somebody asked me in the chat, where would you like your perspective on?
How do we ensure that students really engage from online learning?
I think the content has to be interesting. That's why I chose for this presentation to focus on my book. It's very, very difficult. And I think Professor Versito mentioned that when you're just watching a screen for hours a day, there's no social interaction, there's no human connection. It's very different to be in the classroom and be able to laugh with the students and connect with them on a personal level. And that's lacking. There's also peer socialization that's very, very important. For instance, I was I have two daughters. I was talking to my younger daughter today, who is very much into science and mathematics. And she said to me today that she loves now art classes and physical education classes too, because she's missing them. And the aspect that she's missing is not only creative part and physical activity, but the social aspect of connecting with the peers in the class. And that's something that we can't fully replace. But we can compensate for the lack of the personal contact through engaging material outside of simply being in front of the screen. And that's why I chose to talk about my book, because by being in the book, one can transport herself or himself into a different story, into a different world, and engage with the characters and use imagination. At the same time, through reading, one gets to deliver messages. And I think one of the one of the slides for Professor Versito said, how do you transfer values, social norms, values without social interaction? One way to do that would be through engaging students with reading material that they can then discuss amongst themselves, even without the teacher.
Wonderful. Thank you, Professor Amra. Okay, thank you, Jar from Nigeria for the question. So we have another question from Pak Naufal from Universitas Muhammadiyah Surakarta. The question is for Professor Amra Sabik. The question is, there are so many problems related to education, one of which is discrimination, which can be caused by many factors, one of which is the background of religion, social or economic factors, which I believe many schools throughout the world experience. What is the best way for you to overcome this problem? From which aspect of our education that needs to be improved? System, teacher, or what?
My quick answer to that question is all of the above. I think that's a great question because there are so many varied problems. I teach at Columbia, in fact, a course on education and radicalization, and we spend an entire semester looking at different ways and reasons why one radicalizes. Unfortunately, in the West, there has to be tendency in terms of policymakers, particularly with the United States, to react in sort of in a way that excludes education. And my view is that education is really a place where discrimination, radicalization, those kinds of issues are prevented if we start early. And one way to do it is, for instance, in the context of education in the United States, one of the observed problems you can see with even the Black Lives Matter movement is a reaction to the lack of representation in education of people of diverse backgrounds. So with my book, the reason that I wrote this book is because there are simply not that many books out there that talk about discrimination that targets Muslim individuals. And so my hope is that if those kinds of diverse stories enter the classroom discussion, that is one way in which not only students will change their minds, but also teachers. We do know that some of the individuals who feel excluded, discriminated against, often feel excluded because teachers have biases. Sometimes teachers don't even realize that they are hurting a student by making a comment that is a biased comment. So the goal is to educate teachers, to educate students, but the goal is also to provide equal base for all students. So another problem in the United States, for instance, and many countries around the world, is a huge discrepancy in terms of resources. Some students who are in poor schools with no resources, and other students who have every possible resource at their disposal. So, of course, that frustrations with the lack of economic resources for poor students may lead to other problems, frustration, anger, feeling discriminated against. And so we need to work on providing equally good opportunities for all of our students in order to lessen the issues with discrimination, exclusion, radicalization.
Thanks for the answer, Professor. So all the aspects are necessary and needed. Professor Amra's book could be the good reference. You can check it. Now, okay. So
can I follow up the questions?
Oh, sure.
I love the answer. So, Amra Sabik, I believe that there's students in the school, and students in the class may be different from each other. So my question is that on how the student can accept the difference between them. So the discrimination sometimes happen because of the difference between the students, and they cannot accept the difference between the student itself. So if you were a student, if you were a teacher, what would you say to the students that actually difference among the others, that to accept that difference is okay? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent question. I will give you an example. even as a professor at Columbia, sometimes I have students who have very different views. So you can imagine me teaching a course on education, Islam and radicalization, and having students who come in, some students who are very much biased and some students who are not, who are there for different reasons. And so a couple of years ago, I did have a student who certainly had, I would say, negative view of Islam. But one way to deal with that is to teach students that those differences are not threatening. Sometimes people are afraid of uncertainty, and they're afraid because of their lack of knowledge. And so my job as a teacher, or that's how I see it, is to really make everyone in the classroom comfortable to be whoever it is that they are, and that those differences and different opinions are welcome. So I did have a situation where a couple of years ago, someone actually threatened me because I'm a Muslim faculty member. He was a student who graduated from Columbia who was never a student in my class. But what I did, so this alumni read a publication, Columbia publication, that talked about my work and talked about my background and the importance of it. And this individual sent me a threatening email saying that as a Muslim, that I should not be allowed to teach. So what did I do with that threatening letter? I taught my class on Islam education and radicalization that very afternoon. So I, in addition to extra security that day that Columbia provided because of the threat, and making sure that I spoke to police officers from New York City Police Department who came in and visited me, and we talked about it. And I went and taught my class, and I used this letter, this specific threat, to analyze with my students why did this individual feel compelled to hate me without knowing anything about me, simply because this individual knew that I was teaching a class on Islam and that I had a Muslim background. And so we dissected the views, we tried to understand where this individual came from. And often the conclusion is that they have limited knowledge, limited interaction with diversity. And so my view is, if you welcome diversity, if you engage in important discussions in the classroom, that students will over time develop empathy for each other. Once they get to meet someone and they understand that we're all human beings, despite our differences, they start to feel differently. So often in the class, we'll start semester with people with very different views who are always disagreeing with each other. And by the end of the semester, it feels like we are all one big community that now ends the semester with much greater knowledge and empathy, collective empathy for each other than we started. So I think it's responsibility of teacher in the classroom is immense to bridge those differences.
Okay, wonderful, and it's so deep and inspiring story, Professor Amra.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Naufal, and thanks for all the questions. And I'd like to thank you so much to the speaker, Professor Wasito and Professor Amra, for the informative and interesting presentation. The conference is going to be more interesting, but we have to move to the second session of the conference. Okay, so thank you so much, Professor Amra and Professor Wasito.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the end of the first session. So we are going to the second session of today's conference. We have another 3 special speakers from Indonesia. The first one is Bapak Erwin from Universitas Muhammadiyah, Makassar. Hello, Bapak Erwin. Assalamualaikum. Okay, Bapak Erwin. Okay. The second speaker is Bapak Dr. Desvian from UHAMKA. Hello, Bapak.
Hello.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the speaker of the second session is Ibu Dina Rapida from Banjarmasin. Hello, Ibu Dina.
Yeah. Yeah, Mas Hatika.
So,
yeah, I'm here.
The first speaker for the second session is Dr. Erwin Akib from Unismu Makassar. Dr. Erwin Akib currently holds a position as a Dean of Education Faculty at Muhammadiyah University of Makassar, achieving his doctoral program in University Teknologi Malaysia.
Dan ini jawaban pematerinya. Dia sebutkan bahwa orang tua itu perlu memberi.
Pak Erwin.
Okay. He has presented and published several articles and topics related to the language assessment and evaluation. His research focuses on learning assessment and constructive alignment of education in Indonesia, and he's currently teaching learning assessment and curriculum and material development for undergraduate and graduate students. Dr. Erwin Akib from Unismu, you have 10 minutes to present your paper. Okay, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody, because I think it's afternoon right now. I'm in Makassar right now, but for about 155 kilometers from Makassar in my home village. And then thank you so much for the moderators and also the committee for this very wonderful webinar for today. And let me present about let me see, my presentations is about assessment strategies in learning process during pandemic. Oh, kok nggak bisa ya? Wait. Mas, boleh di-share dari situ nggak, Mas?
Oke, ya. Oh, iya, Pak, bisa. Sure.
Oke.
Okay, please find.
Ya. Bisa ya? You fine?
We are still opening the file. Okay, it's ready.
Okay. Let me talk about assessment strategies in learning process during pandemic, COVID-19. Next. This is just my profile. Okay. Wait. Our situation right now, I divide into 3 situations. We talk about normal situation before pandemic. Our teaching and learning process that we did in normal situations. We did face-to-face learning and instructions. But right now, in pandemic, COVID-19, we come to distance learning, like many terms or many words that come up to the society or to the educators, something like work from home, school from home, learning from home, and everything from home. But sometimes the teachers or lecturers not work from home, but work at home. Okay, not work from home, but work at home. And also students not school from home, but school at home. Okay, this is the problem, because I said like this. Some of us get like a shock culture in facing this situation. Okay, we have something like a very scary and blah 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 how to say, worried with the pandemic conditions. So all of the people stay at home, and then they have to study, they have to teach and at home. But if we talk about the teaching and learning process, I think it's not will be very effective. Okay, and the next we are come to new normal or new normality. But I said not new normal life, but new normality. Distance learning, maybe we will be will be use distance learning, work from home, blah blah blah, and maybe face to face teaching and learning process. Next, this is the next. Yeah, this is the one of the theory about effective learning. From the 6 items of effective learning, I just put 1 or 2 of it, like an environment. What I want to say here that we talk about Indonesian situation. Okay, Indonesia has more than 267 million populations. If we compare Indonesia with Malay, Singapore, and blah blah blah, we couldn't compare in a population. And if we talk about the how many population of Indonesia that took education right now, it's about 50 million thousands people population of Indonesia. So how to measure the effective learning in pandemic right now? Our environment in Indonesia from Aceh to Papua has a very big difference. Yes, we don't have to talk about Jakarta and Jawa only. Jakarta and Java only. We have to talk about Indonesia in holistic, in whole. So if we want to measure the environment of learning, I think we couldn't do a very good teaching and learning process in pandemic right now, because the problem is about a signal, about networking, about anything that relates with the tools of the students use in a teaching and learning process, and also the tools that the tools that used by the people, the teachers and the lecturers in Indonesia at whole, and also quality of teaching. Talk about quality of teaching. What about quality of teaching right now in teaching and learning process? I think if we measure it, if we evaluate it in quality of teaching of the lecturers and also the teachers in pandemic right now, in pandemic these times, I think it's not very it has not give a good what's that how to say a very big sources for the teaching and learning, because work from home or teacher from home, sometimes they couldn't transfer their knowledge very well. And next slide. This is my the theory of constructive alignment. Actually, in John Biggs and Tan 2007, there are 3 items there: learning objectives, teaching and learning activities, and assessment tasks. But based on my research that I conducted on 2015, there are 2 elements that, or there are 2 items that we have to pay attention also in constructive alignments, namely students' learning times and also syllabus. What we are going to do without syllabus? What we are going to do without pay attention to the students' learning times? So the next slide, there is some explanation about learning outcomes. What do you want your students to learn? And syllabus. How do you arrange your teaching and learning activities? If we want to conduct our teaching learning activities, we have to pay attention to the syllabus first. We have to read the syllabus first, and then after teaching and learning process, learning activities, we have to pay attention to students' learning times. How many times the students use in their teaching learning activities. And the last one is assessment tasks. I do hope next. I think it's enough. It's okay here. These ones. Okay. This is just theory. Next. Yeah. 3 approach to assessments. I think all of you are as educators now or have been read about this theory: assessment as learning, assessment of learning, and assessment for learning. But I just focus to the assessment for learning as a tool or a strategy in teaching, in assessing the students in pandemic right now, because we want to assess our students' teaching and learning activities in process, not only the results of the teaching and learning activities, not only the results of our teaching, but also we want to assess all of what the students' activities and also all of the parts of the taxonomy of Bloom. There are 3 aspects there in the cognitive, affective, and also psychomotor. So if we read what is assessment for learning do is enable teachers to use information about students' knowledge, understanding, and skills to inform their teaching, and teachers provide feedback to students about their learning and how to improve it. Next, this is just the differentiates. And next, assessment for learning strategy. Yeah, okay. Prof. Harun and also other friends, let me ask you, all of you are as Indonesian people, also Pak Dekan, the Dean of and Ibu Dekan, have you got indicators of assessments that the teachers and lecturers use to assess their students? I think until now, our government has not prepared, has not provided what the indicators that have to assess our students in pandemic situation. So that's why we have in my mind that the strategy of assessment for learning that we can use to assess them, namely use of questionings, peer feedback, students self-assessment, and the formative use of summative assessments. And the next is 6 principles. Next, Mas, the last, yeah, these are 6 principles of effective online assessment. Design learner-centered assessment that includes self-reflections, design and include grading rubric and blah blah blah, and include collaborative assessment, use assessment technique that fit the context and align with learning objective, design assessment that are clear, easy to understand, and likely to work in online environment, ask for and incorporate students' input. So all of the principles of effective online assessment that have to be used by the teachers and lecturers in assessing their students, assessing their pupils in a pandemic situation right now. I think it's enough. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perfect. Thank you very much, Bapak Erwin Akif, for the insightful presentation. So the next speaker is Dr. Desvian Bandarsha. Hello, Bapak. Hello. Okay. Without any further ado, I'd like to read the CV of Dr. Desvian Bandarsha. Bapak Desvian is the Dean of Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Professor Dr. Muhammad Hamka. He earned doctoral degree from Indonesian University of Education, and for master degree he got from Jakarta State University, and his research focuses on history education and also character education. Please welcome Dr. Desvian. Over to you.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining this conference. Today, I will present primary education challenges in digital era, innovation, adaptation, or revolution. Education as an actor. Our primary education is an important actor in preparing Indonesian future generations. The increasingly complex national problem is partly because of the weakening of inclusive attitudes and awareness of diversity and nationality. Primary education becomes a reliable agent to prepare future generations of Indonesia with the complex challenge through the practice of providing education and teaching with values that are compatible with demands in the situation at hand. It is necessary for primary education to look at itself in the silence of his reflection by thinking and pondering about what have been done, how and why doing them. First, the complexity involves issue of infrastructure, teachers, principals, and graduates who are able to enter the next level of education properly. Second, in addition, advances in information technology have been transformed into opportunities and challenges that further complicate our primary education problems. Third, the ability and desire to look at itself is needed while reflecting on existence of teachers in carrying out educational mission of primary education. What has been done needs to be reflected throughout contemplation so that we always clearly see ourselves and our primary education takes today and in the future, preparing the generation of teachers who will educate of our nation in the future. What does our primary education need? I will begin with a story about Adolf Hitler, an influencing figure and at the same time one of the great human criminal who have rocked world history almost a century ago. Hitler was a diligent child and student. He never cheated during the school exam and almost never missed school. His learning achievements were excellent. His academic report always contained a row of grade A. Education is an idea. In education, there are talent and determination. The factor of luck may exist. All that remains is the idea that is more or less sacred from faith. Swimming in the fault of educational theory to be studied, debated, and tested. The idea is impossible to bloom if it is not given a space to grow. Discovering selfhood. First, education leads students to find themselves. There is no particular subject for learning this, but it is hidden in the euphoria of process that take place in the classroom and school when students and the curriculum interact through learning materials, then process in the family and community. Second, then they become individuals in the long process of life. The learning carried out by a teacher in school must not ignore the self-concept in individual student. Back to noble values. What is needed for our primary education is a return to the values and tradition of educating in actual education, something sacred, which is education itself, which will never and should not change, only because the development of the world, which is getting more mechanical and instrumental. Primary education must be present by holding criticism and, if necessary, heroic resistance to condition and demands that tend to be artificial and hasty. The profane may change according to the demands of the times, but the sacred must not change. The urgency of education in digital era, or primary education map. Human and technology. Modern technology as culture product has controlled human in a very natural when it was created, but then it was transformed into an effective aid for oppressing human. As Herbert Marcuse believes that technology is not natural, he actually enslaves and helps oppress human. Digitalization and children. First, digital capital. All children do not have the basis to understand and release what, how, and why information through cyberspace approach and its access. Second, knowing and understanding. The digital age has made the process of understanding and comprehending the nation's generation different from the previous generation. It needs more complex process of knowing and understanding, while the characteristic of individuals undergoing the process of knowing and understanding never change. The urgency of our primary education. First, developing the curiosity of the generation together with the imagination and creativity possessed needs to be developed through enough space for freedom. Second, identifying the encourage children to reach the peak of success in identifying the abilities, potential, and talent they have. They then become future human with their autonomous identity. Third, dialectic. Such identity are developed within generation through a dialectical process that influence universal values and particular values between what they have in common and what is culturally specific. Education aims to free human from the shackles of myth and untruth in reasoning. We want the birth of an educated generation who dares to reason autonomously. In conclusion, in education implies teaching, and teaching implies value and knowledge. Value and knowledge are truth. Truth is a perspective that is the basis for goodness and harmony in life that can be carried out and released if our primary education and school can meet the need of educated generation, good and reliable teachers. Good and reliable teachers will produce a good and reliable generation. That is all my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Desvian, for the presentation. Let's move to the next speaker. She is Ibu Dina Rafidia from Universitas Muhammadiyah Banjarmasin. Halo, Assalamualaikum Ibu Dina. Assalamualaikum Ibu Dina.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay. So Ibu Dina is the Dean of Teacher Training and Education Faculty at Universitas Muhammadiyah Banjarmasin. He earned Master of Education degree from Pennsylvania State University, USA in 2016. Please welcome Ibu Dina. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, first of all, I have to say gratitude to Allah. Alhamdulillah, all of us have the health and all the opportunity that we can gather here. Salawat dan salam we deliver to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I want to say thank you to Prof. Joko Harun, who gave me the opportunity to present in this conference, international conference. This is really a great honor for me. And also, welcome to all the participants and the speaker before me, and also the participant. In this presentation, I want to talk more about using WhatsApp for teaching, low tech, but high teach. The previous speaker mostly talked about education in the theoretical era or in the theoretical platform. For me, I want to talk more about the applicable one, the one that I already try and do during this COVID-19 new normal situation. Okay, so talking about WhatsApp, actually in this paper, I talk more about the thing that I do during my class in this COVID-19 new normal one, while I'm doing it based on my reflection. So mostly this is like related to narrative inquiry, the thing that I observe, the thing that I do in the class, the thing that I assess my student whether they like it or not. I do a lot of interview, I talk to them one by one, and then this is the final paper that I can present to all of you. Okay. So this is the background of the story. My presentation, I'm going to divide it into three things. The one is background of the story. The second is how to use WhatsApp group for teaching and learning. And the third one is lesson to consider. So from the background of the story that I want to tell you, actually I'm talking about intensive class that we have in our university. So we have like 1 year program to our new student. They learn English as a basic from the basic, and they have like 1 year full. We have like 1 semester that we got face to face, and then when we start the second semester, only like several meetings, and then we have the lockdown situation. So we have to do it from offline to online learning. So I have like 23 active student in my class, and the level of English is like intermediate English ability. And this one, the intensive English, is the logo. So actually they form WhatsApp group. The student form it themselves, and then they invite me, and they make a logo like this. Okay, and actually I already asked them the permission to do this presentation to present their class. Okay, so why WhatsApp group? So I'm thinking that actually when we have a class, like offline class, we have really interactive. And then mostly all my classes consider like a lot of games. So I don't really teach grammar or something like that. Mostly I just give them activity, and then based on that, they learn something. But since there's changes, so I'm thinking that WhatsApp group should be easier to do that, because all my students have the application and they use it all the time anyway. And actually, before COVID-19 new normal happened, they already use WhatsApp group. We already use WhatsApp group to do like activity, additional activity. But then now we have that WhatsApp group as the main source for learning. Okay, how to use WhatsApp group for teaching and learning. So I try to use several methods to teach using WhatsApp group. First thing first is using text messages, that is the normal way to do it. So I can like give them some sentence or like ask them to do something. For example, like, can you show me how to go to your hometown? And then they just have to describe how to go to their hometown. And then they can message also each other and discuss about some topic or some sentence. They just give it to them based on the topic. And then they can do also a private message or private chat if they have something that they want to ask me. Or if I want to correct them, sometimes I don't do it in the whole class, but like one by one, because I want them to really understand their mistake, and then they can correct it by themselves. They don't have to wait until someone gives them the comment. Okay, the second one is using voice note. So voice note is really, not all the students really have the courage to use it, because they're afraid that if they speak in the group, like all their friends will laugh at them. So only some of them that really have the high confidence to use voice note. But actually I use voice note for middle and final spoken test. So somehow they have to do it with me, but not in front of their friend. So it's their choice anyway. I don't want to force them and make them really stressful for this. Okay. The third thing that I use is YouTube videos. Actually, I give them YouTube video, and then they can give me comment about that. They can private chat me, or they can put it in the group, depend on whatever the topic is. And they can comment on each other's comment also. So hopefully that it make them really think about, or they can analyze what is the content of the video and why it's important. And the other activity is filling the gap. So sometimes I give them a YouTube channel, and then I give them the text, but I erase some of the word, or they're making a gap. So they just have to watch the video to finish all the gap. Okay, next activity, which is that they like it the most, is using song. So I can use that for filling the gap also, some kind of exercises. I use some like famous song, or sometimes just famous, group band that make them really enthusiastic to listen to the song if the song is really good. But the second activity that they like the most is when I ask the student to give me the link of the song that they like, that related to some specific topic. For example, here, that find song with modal verbs and so on. So they like it very much. So it surprised me that like all the students, 23rd of them, send me in the WhatsApp group about their favorite song and that related to the material. Okay, so I think this is the top one when I use games. I use here Kahoot or quizzes. Student nowadays, when they say this generation, some of the students come to me and say, you know what, I'm really bored with all this, online learning thing. It sounds so dry and I cannot really involve with my friends and I cannot laugh with them. I cannot really interact with them and so on. So while I'm using this Kahoot challenge, it's really funny actually because I didn't really give the limitation for them, so they can play to gain highest score, and then they can share it in the group and say like, this is my score. Anyone can beat me, and then like the other student, like some students sometimes just play 5 times to beat their friends. And for me, it means that they learn. So regardless of whatever, like they really learn or not, but when they try to do the question again and again and again, it's basically learning. So the main thing or the main problem of using games, it's like the Kahoot challenge or quizzes, it really need like strong internet connection. So for my students who come from really remote area, they like text me, private chat me and say that they cannot follow the games because it's really hard for them to get connected to the internet. Even for WhatsApp, it takes them some time to send me some messages. So that is the backdrop or the problem of using game. Okay, so I come to the last part of my presentation. So it's like lesson to consider. In this time of the pandemic, WhatsApp group can be very, very helpful because of the student don't have to use a lot of credit to join the lesson. I can deliver the material using text messages, voice notes, YouTube videos, songs, or playing games. And sometimes when I reflect to whatever I do during this semester, I'm thinking that wherever I try hard, sometimes some material or some moment that the student think that the material is not interesting anyway. Or sometimes they say like, oh, really, that they really want to learn more and so on. So in my opinion, for us as a teacher, what we have to do is to do the best to our student. And then when whatever the student needs us, we have to be there and try to not teach, but to educate them. Because what the student need now is not like a lot of assignment, but they just want to feel that the teacher is with them, not against them. So I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. So I'm waiting for you. If you need any confirmation or question, you can ask me here in this conference, or maybe you can email me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Ibu Dina, for your interesting presentation. Okay, so Ibu Dina is the last speaker for the second session of today's conference. So because the time is limited, but we still have another 4 speakers, I'd like to have one question from the participants. Any participants that want to ask directly to the speakers? Please open your mic and don't forget to mention your name and your institution. Hello? Anyone? Okay, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Introduce me, I'm from Muhammadiyah University of Kendari. I'm Trindah Rusli. Actually, it is a general question from the three of our speakers. May I give one question for one speaker, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sure. Just go on. Okay.
Okay, first for the first speaker, Sir Dr. Erwin. Sorry. Okay. I would like to make clear that how to assess the effective point of the students. I mean that we have three component of the evaluation, and until now it's still difficult to evaluate the effective of the students by using digital technology in teaching. And then for the second speaker, I would like to, as we know that teaching by technology in primary school is quite difficult because we difficult to evaluate. Is it the students or is this the, I mean the parents do the assess or the assessment or fill the blank when any question from the teacher. So it's still being a big question for me, how to know is that effective learning by using technology for the primary school, especially for our student in first till third level in primary school. And the last question for Ibu Dr. Dina. As we know that today WhatsApp is very familiar for us for teaching, and the most application I think applied or implemented by the lecture. But how do you know that all your student in WhatsApp group is active or join your class, not only put their name, but how to really know that they are joined in your class and active? I think that is all, sir. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Ibu. Okay, thanks for the wonderful question. So the first question is for Bapak Erwin. Bapak Erwin.
Yes. Okay.
How to know how to evaluate the effective learning from online learning?
Okay. If we talk about the how to evaluate the effective learning in I mean for online learning, just now I said that it's very hard to assess the students in this pandemic right now, because pandemic we talk about online learning process. So that's why I said that we need to use strategies. I said that assessment for learning strategies is one of the way to assess our students in this pandemic situation. One of the terms in IFL strategies is use of questioning. Use of questions means that questions is used not only as a pedagogical tools but also as a deliberate way for the teachers to find out what students know, what the students now understand and are able to do. Means that our students, our teachers have to know our students' conditions, our students' situation in teaching and learning process. I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bapak Erwin. So the second question is for Bapak Desvarian. How about for teaching online for primary students?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Handika. I will highlight an important point related to the use of technology in education. It must be able to accelerate the process of forming students' character for more civilized society. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bapak. So the last question is for Ibu Dina. How do you know that all of our students active in learning by WhatsApp?
Okay, so thank you, Butri, for the question. So for my class, actually, I usually give them a question that they have to answer. And I make it like a list. So they put their name and then their answer. So I know who's answering the question, who's not. And actually for my class, I give them a reward. So like every time they attend my class, I give them, if they are really active, I mean like they're doing the assignment and they give comment in the group, I will give them, I give them like 100 score for score. So, but sometimes the student also object. For example, they say like, it means that like when they didn't answer my question at that time, they said that actually it's not because of I don't want to answer the question, but because of the connection in my place at that time or my area is really bad. So like they even cannot really WhatsApp me. So I give them the opportunity to answer the question, but the score, like there is a reduction of the score. Like for example, I give them, it depends. It's like it could be 90 or 80. It's not like the perfect 100. So that is the way how we know if my student is active or not. That's one way. The second way, if they don't active for several class, for example, I text them one by one and ask them if they have any problem. So for nowadays, with this situation, as a teacher, we have to be really got high empathy with our student. Sometimes we have to have really positive thinking about what happened to them. So we cannot just judge, like give them judgment that you're really lazy, for example, or you don't have any attention to my class. Don't say that to the student. Just give them the question of like, why you didn't answer the question? Do you have any problem? Do you need my help? Is that like something happened? Because like it happened to my student once in the class. And when I asked the question, she said that, I'm so sorry, miss, but actually my father just passed away. So see, that is like, don't like try to be really, even though maybe in your mind you say, oh my God, my student is so lazy, they don't want to attend my class, but still try to be positive and ask the positive question also. So if you become positive, I think your student also become positive and become active. Yeah, but in the end of the day, I think you, as a teacher, we have to always keep in the mind, like for me, like for example, I can take the horse to the water, but I cannot force them to drink. So it means that whatever like good material that you bring, if in the end of the day the student doesn't want to learn anything, so it's not useful for them. So the most important thing for me is how to motivate them to learn. And I'm not teaching actually, I'm not teaching the material, but I'm teaching them how to learn. So in case of I'm not there, they still can learn by themselves. Okay? So thank you, Putri, for the question, and thank you, Mas Hatika, for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the speaker. So Ibu Dina is implementing gamification in education, and we have to create a positive community in the class too. So thank you so much for the question and for the answer. The conclusion of the second session of the conference that I got from the speakers is the first one is learning is an unending process, and the teacher have to use various strategies to make sure students know and understand. And second one is the primary education is an important factor in preparing Indonesian future generation. And the last one from Ibu Dina is how we use WhatsApp for teaching using low tech but high tech. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bapak Erwin, Bapak Desvarian, and Ibu Dina. So this is the end of the second session of the conference. Okay, thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the four last speakers. And the first one
Thank
is,
you.
Thank you, Bapak.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Andika.
Bapak Desvian. Okay, we have Ibu Ernita Sari, and then Ibu Alifah, and then Bapak Abdul. The last one is Ibu Siti Halimah. Hello, Ibu Ernita Sari. Assalamualaikum, Ibu. Assalamualaikum, Ibu Ernita. Are you ready, Ibu Ernita? Ernita? Okay. Halo, Ibu Ernita. Assalamualaikum, Ibu. Oh, okay.
This is unmute.
Oh yeah. Already here. Okay. Halo, Assalamualaikum, Ibu.
Waalaikumsalam.
Oh, okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready.
So, Ibu Ernita is a lecturer at Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. She graduated from Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, Australia, and then the research interest of Ibu Ernita is educational technology and micro teaching. So, Ibu Ernita, time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, mana PowerPoint-nya? PowerPoint-nya. I can here. Ini. Oke. Aduh, bantu dulu ya Allah. Bismillah. Aduh, Ibu, mana orangnya, Ibu? Aduh, Ibu. Aduh, Ibu. Aduh, Ibu. Okay. Yeah. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint? Ibu. Aduh, Ibu. Aduh, Ibu. Can you see my PowerPoint, Mas Hardika?
I haven't, not yet.
It's already
Can you
on
try
now.
to share it again? Would you like to try it?
Can you see my PowerPoint?
Not yet. Would you like to let me?
Yeah, not yet, Bu.
The PowerPoint. So, hello, Ibu. Assalamualaikum. So, I think we have the trouble. The signal is quite bad. So, we are gonna back to Ibu Ernita after the problem is fixed. So, we'd like to have the next speaker for the conference. So, we have Ibu Alifah. Assalamualaikum, Ibu Alifah. Ibu Alifah, are you ready? Assalamualaikum. Okay, so we move to the third speaker of the session, Bu Alfia. Bu Alfia, halo, Assalamualaikum, Bu Alfia. Halo, Bu Alfia. Oh, okay. So I think Ibu Ernita Sari has a problem. So we're gonna start with Ibu Alifah first from Kendari. Why is this Bu Ernita? Oh, okay. Okay, we are back to Bu Ernita. I think the presentation is ready. So, halo Bu Anita, Assalamualaikum. Halo, Assalamualaikum Ibu. Oh, I think Ibu Anita is not here. But Bu Anita is not here. So, okay, so we move to the second speaker of the session, Ibu Alfia. Halo, Assalamualaikum Ibu Alfia.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Okay. Okay, Bu Alfia, are you ready for the presentation?
Okay, ready, bismillah.
Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ibu Alfia is from Universitas Muhammadiyah Kendari. Graduate from Universitas Halu Oleo and then got master degree from Universitas Gajah Mada, and the research interest of Ibu Alfia about data mining, artificial intelligence, and programming. Okay, Ibu Alfia, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hardika, for the time. Okay, is it shown the presentation?
Yep, it's there.
Okay. Is it good?
Yep, wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hardika. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I would like to say thank you very much to all of you who attend this international conference, who has given me this nice opportunity being one of the speaker in the middle of the greatest speaker. And also thank you to the Dean of my Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Universitas Muhammadiyah Kendari University. And then thank you for the host, Mr. Hardika, of this conference, Association of Educational Institute Muhammadiyah University, to hold this international conference. Hello everyone, thank you for having me. I'm Alfia, you can call me Alfia, and I'm from Universitas Muhammadiyah Kendari, and I'm going to speaking to you today about technology in education. As earlier speak about the online learning transformational in computational area. So because my field is technology, such as the software development, so I will talk more about how technology itself is used today in education. So as in the title, online learning is one of the functions of technology in the world of education. So the technology in education, there is a lot of term or the function in education. The first one is, of course, one-stop access to every information. You can see we can access the information that we put in our technology. And then there is a regulate information and immediate feedback. And then there is a monitor progress and instant grading that we already used to our students. And there is artificial intelligence that I will talk about later. And then video lectures and visual examples that means Dita already give us an example and to how to create the video lectures and visual examples to the student. And then there is a virtual field trips. And the last one, gamification of educational concept. There is a lot of technology in education that we already use in our education world. And I think all of us as trainers or teachers already use this technology. So what's the current educational system that problems problems that we face by educational system. System is in the middle, so every problems in educational like poor infrastructure, low accessibility, there is a rat race between people, lack of good teachers, not the knowledge, but I think just lack of the training system, and then low pass rate and costly education. Of course, that's and in the middle there is a system that we have a problem in educational system. So what technology? I'm sorry. What technology solution to system problems? Of course, there is a high quality educational content. Focus on individual tools to improve teaching, e-classrooms, economical education, and better accessibility. So this is a technological solution to system problems that we already and always face in this nowadays. But technology always offering the solution to the system problems. And then there is a things technology can improve in education. As the title said, that transformational online learning in computational era, technology can improve in education, like open education, limitless supply of knowledge. There is a better progress monitoring. Yeah, the monitoring itself we can see individual as a student, as a teacher, so we can get a better progress. We can track our progress by ourselves or the student itself. And then there is a larger audience, like we do now. We can perform the international conference with the largest audience with the technology we use. Like this application is one application. Zoom is one of the application technology. And then better interaction and collaboration. You can get collaboration with another person, and then better attention, better engagement, learning at one's own pace. This is the things technology can improve in education. And then there is the educational technology trends in 2020. The first one, focus on individuals' creativity. Yeah. We can be more focused on individuals' creativity, because every student can be more creative by themselves. They can access the source that teacher already uploaded, so the individuals can be more creative, how to learn, how to be more creative. And then the second one, analysis and data-driven decision. The third, standardization of edtech product. As a software development, there is a standardization of educational technology product, and it's always upgrading. The technology itself is always upgrading, so there is always a standard for every educational technology product. The fourth one, online learning and coaching, integrated and immersive learning, chatbots and voice user interface. This is the artificial intelligence being used, the chatbots. If you ever use the Duolingos, that most online learning platform that used in America, they already use an artificial intelligence system in their online platform, like chatbots. And then the seventh, VR, virtual reality or augmented reality in learning. And then last one, gamification. So this is a top educational technology companies around the globe. As you can see, Indonesia have ruangguru.com. Maybe we that's one of the famous online learning platform in Indonesia. And there is a lot of online learning platform that already been used in every country. And most of them already use the artificial intelligence system in their online platform. So artificial intelligence technology through automation and artificial intelligence is definitely one of the most disruptive sorts. Yeah, it changed the way we work and the skill we need. Yeah, but it also boosts productivity and creates new jobs. So artificial intelligence not really change the function of the human itself, but it boosts the productivity and creates new jobs. There is the use of artificial intelligence in education, smart content for everyone, better assessment of skill and weakness, immediate attention, feedback to teacher, tutor and guidance outside classroom, automate admin tasks, customize learning time. So this is the use of artificial intelligence in education. There is a lot of function of artificial intelligence in education we can use. And then there is a future of education technology. There is a virtual reality, creative storytelling, of course, better research, collaborative learning, lifelong learning, learning for all, and virtual assistant. So we have to making the right choice. The first one is it must be active students engagement, focus in inquiry, not memorization. So we don't have to push the student the inquiry that we upload, but not the memorization. And then supplemental to school education, the extracurricular, and then ATP, personalized solutions, and then self-regulation, enjoyability factor. This is technologies that will change classroom education. So in the future, as we know that there is a virtual reality tools. Maybe now we still face the online learning. We still face the problem of online learning with our students, especially in the rural area. But I think technology will go forward. So we cannot stop, or we cannot be nagging in the problem now, because we have to face it. Technology will change faster. So there is a virtual reality tools. So it can be real life training for future careers. So they can use the tools, and then it can be like we are in the classroom itself if the student use the tools.
Okay.
There is a real demonstration of complex concept and remote learning.
So sorry, Ibu.
Yeah.
So the time is up.
Yeah. Okay. I think this is the
sure.
the last.
Nice.
Oh yeah, the last one. Okay, just a little bit, and then there is a cloud computing, hologram, 3D printing, and biometrics. So the last one I want to say, technology can improve education. But technology will never replace great teachers. But technology in the hands of great teachers is transformational. I think that's all that I want to say. Thank you very much for your attention and thanks for the opportunity, Mr. Hadika. I give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Alifa. Well, it's so interesting because it's related to my research interest too, both Innotech and EduTech. Okay, thank you. So we're gonna back to Ibu Ernita Sari. Assalamualaikum, Ibu Ernita. Halo, Ibu Ernita. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, now it's clear. So are you ready, Ibu?
Yes, inshallah.
Okay, Bu Ernita, time is yours.
Yes. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let's thank to Allah who has been giving us blessing and mercy, and salawat and salam to our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And also thank you for Professor Harun Joko that given us a special place here to participate in this seminar. Okay, my presentation will be about the IT or information technology. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, Bu. We are still seeing the Explorer.
Yes. Sorry, there's a mistake here.
Maybe you would like to reshare the presentation, the screen?
Okay, this is about the education technology.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, can you see my PowerPoint now?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Okay, good. Okay, the topic is about the use of educational technology in the teaching and learning process toward COVID-19 pandemic at senior high school. Okay, this is the content. Okay, this is the background of the effect of the pandemic here. Okay, the effect of the COVID-19 to education. The education is one of human life aspect affected to the outbreak this COVID pandemic. And according to the UNESCO, state that about 1.723 billion learners have been affected due to school closure. And another background of this research is the role of education technology in distance learning. So EduTech or education technology is considered the most effective media to keep the teaching and learning running. Okay, and the third background here is the distance learning as the primary choice. So the only choice the government intake in order to avoid the spread of the virus. So people or teachers at school are using this platform as a distance learning. Okay, I just give overview a little bit about the data right now. So this about approximately 68 million students in Indonesia forced to study at home due to COVID-19 pandemic. This is source for Kemendikbud. And about Palu itself, there's about 400 schools are closed. That's true from the kindergarten up to secondary school. So it totals about 50,000 students study from home using this platform or distance learning platform. And meanwhile, about 21 senior high school and vocational school in Kota Palu are closed. So the total, it's about 15,000 students study from home. Okay, I got this source from Dinas Pendidikan Provinsi. Okay, the next one. This is, I just want to inform that the real things on the field using this distance learning. I know as Prof. Warsito said that distance learning already introduced in Indonesia around 1984. But in reality, it's about more than 30 years. We are in Palu itself. We just started to learn how to use the distance learning. And some of them do not know what is distance learning. Okay, I just give a little bit the reality, what are the advantages actually using the education technology in teaching and learning process toward COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, for the student itself, the advantages is they improve engagement. So this means that the students are motivated and encouraged to participate the distance learning because they are curious. They want to learn, they want to study in different situation, different from their experience before, just only face-to-face, like a conventional study in the classroom. Okay, and the second advantages for the student itself is they encourage for individual learning. This is because the technology provides a great opportunity for the individual student to study independently. And in this case, that the source of learning not only depend 100% from the teacher, but the students can search the information from the internet. So could be that students more better information than the teacher itself herself, because they have more information found from the internet. Okay, and the next one is the advantages from the student itself is they have cooperatively and collaboratively learning. So I think this is one of the 21st century skill that can be applied in the 21st century. Okay, and this is the advantages from the teachers itself. Okay, the advantages of using the edutech here, that's it's encouraged teacher to learn how to operate the IT tools in response to individual teaching preparation for distance learning, because distance learning is now a very popular platform to be used during this pandemic, this COVID pandemic. Okay, so what I mean here is when the teacher can operate the tools, so they can prepare their materials for teaching. They can, they can like how to do the evaluation. And the next advantage is the teaching and learning process still can be conducted through distance learning. So what I mean here is during this pandemic, the teacher still can resist or continue their roles responsible for teaching. They can teach from home. Okay, and the next advantages from the teacher itself is the next the same. It's flexibility of the time and place for the teacher and students in teaching and learning process. So what I mean here is the teaching and learning can be managed for the flexible time and place. Okay, but we have to see the other side as well of the disadvantage of the use of education technology for distance learning. Okay, for the teacher itself, the teacher resistant to change. This is because why? The teacher feel reluctant to change their the teaching style. This is because of they have limited time to learn how to operate the IT, let alone they don't know how to integrate the IT for their teaching process. And the next disadvantage for the teacher is teacher have low competence in using IT. Okay, this is one of the reasons as well, due to lack of effective training for teacher. So not all teachers are well trained. Okay, the next is most of teachers do not have sufficient competence in designing to prepare lesson material for learning. I think this is the most challenging, the most challenge for the teacher almost in Kota Palu, because even how to use the IT, they have limited skill. But in designing the material for e-learning is need more skill to learn about it. Okay, and the other advantage is limited facilities such as internet connection and the availability personal computer. I think this is almost problem, especially in the small city like Kota Palu. Not teachers have the internet connection, or maybe some of teachers do not have a personal computer. So how can they carry their teaching activities? And the last one is, this is still same problem again. Many question about how to instill the character to this teacher. So this is still problems. By using the IT or education technology, the teacher cannot control student misbehavior directly. Let's say by using WhatsApp, how they can control their misbehavior. Or maybe we can still using the WhatsApp or you communicate, because the one thing I think for the using the IT is keep communication between the teacher, students, and the parents. Okay, this is disadvantage. It's not much. The disadvantage, I think, for the teacher, for the student is they have unequal facilities of IT tools. And some of them do not have internet connection at home. So what I mean here is the student have different affordability in providing the facilities to support for the involvement in distance learning. And also some of the family have background of low economic to support the data or the quota for internet. So this is problem not only for the students, I think, at school, but in university. Some of my students in university, I feel like sad because they said we don't have enough money to buy the quota for the internet. Okay, and the other disadvantage is students' learning style. Some of the learning style for the students is they can study without attendance of the teacher. So they just rely on face-to-face learning. So they feel like more motivated when strictly facing to their teachers, because teachers give them feel good. So feedback, I think. So feedback from face-to-face teaching and learning is, I think, still more favorable. But we have to maybe start thinking or starting doing like a blended learning. So maybe we can use how many percent for the face-to-face learning, like a conventional teaching and learning, and maybe 30% we can use online teaching. So still have to be a blended learning. Okay, and the last one is different capacity to understand the lesson in distance learning. So what I mean here is the student have different level of ability to understand the lesson, like presented from the distance learning, because some has a good more smarter than others. So different when we face to face, is easy to ask straightly to friends or to teachers. Okay, and this is, I just show taken from June. This is in-house workshop in some of the state school in Kota Palu. It's called Madani. So they just start to learn how to use a distance learning. So we can blame it. This is due of this COVID force the teachers have to study from now on what is the distance learning and how to use it. Okay, and this is the pictures. This is mostly a problem, even though the school are good, but good condition, but I can say that not 100% of the teacher can operate the computer or using the distance learning. Okay, for the conclusion. Okay, the use of education technology for distance learning during the COVID pandemic has advantages and disadvantages for both teachers and students. So distance learning by using edutech media is not only how to deliver the lesson to students, but the most important thing is how teachers designing interesting teaching material, proper teaching procedure to involve all students in the learning activities. I think that's all, Mas Hardika. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Ibu Ernita. It's such informative and wonderful presentation. Okay, we are going to the third speaker for the last session. We have Bapak Abdul Muhid. Halo, Assalamualaikum Bapak. Assalamualaikum Bapak Abdul Muhid. Hello, Bapak. Oh yeah, okay. Are you ready, Bapak? Okay, hello, Assalamualaikum. Oh yeah, hello. Okay, yeah, it's clear now. Okay, so Bapak Abdul Muhid, she was born in Maros, South Sulawesi. He is a lecturer at Faculty of Teachers Training and Education, Siti Muhammadiyah, Oku Timur. He also Vice Dean of Student Affairs of Siti Muhammadiyah, Oku Timur. Okay, okay, Bapak Abdul Muhid, offer to you. Please welcome.
Okay. Thank you for Mas Hardika. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, all praise is to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Today we are given extraordinary help, so we can carry out continuous activities to make change. May Allah approve of what we are doing today. So, salawat and greetings, let us give thanks to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who of course we make role model in our daily life and education. What I respect Professor Harun, Prof. Amra, Prof. Asito, and all speakers. Firstly, oh, I'm sorry, my screen not yet. Yeah.
Can you share the PowerPoint, Bapak?
Yes, my PowerPoint.
There is a share screen in the bottom of the Zoom, in the center.
Wait a moment, I'm sorry.
Oh.
I can send my screen.
Oh, yes. So let me help you. Okay.
Okay, okay.
Okay, it's there.
Thank you. Before entering into the material, I would like to invite to the audience to recall the fragment of the verses in the Quran, Arab 2, verse 11. Maybe next. Next. Innallah a'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Innallaha la yughayyiru ma biqaumin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Surely Allah does not change the condition of people until they change their own condition. From this verse, there is a moral message to us that the result of an effort process will always not be deceptive from the journey we go through. Good result are the fruit of genuine effort to make change. Okay, next allow me to convey the sharing in Indonesian in last session ya. Baiklah Bapak Ibu sekalian, di akhir sesi ini saya ingin mencoba melihat dari beberapa kacamata dan menyampaikan beberapa hasil temuan dan yang bisa saya share. Next, ini adalah sebuah kembali lagi Mas. Back. Ini adalah back lagi Mas, satu kali lagi. Nah, oke, kita bisnis core kita adalah sebelum ini Mas. Nah, bisnis core kita adalah masalah evolusi atau pendidikan jarak jauh. Mungkin bisa kalau kita amati melihat sejarahnya, itu berarti sudah bisa kita lihat dalam sejarah itu sejak mulai dari tahun 1880. Nah, saya nggak akan perpanjang penjelasan ini. Saya kira nanti bisa kita lihat semuanya di materi ini. Hingga saat ini dengan perkembangannya, baik industri 1, industri 2, kemudian revolusi industri 3, dan revolusi industri 4. Bahkan saat ini kita sudah mau masuk kepada revolusi industri 5. Jadi ketika kita sudah masih menyiapkan revolusi industri 4, cari problem solvingnya, kita sudah berhadapan lagi dengan revolusi industri 5. Oke, ini gambaran sekilas kita bisnis core yang akan kita bahas dalam materi yang ingin saya sampaikan. Next, Mas. Next, please. Ini adalah landasan-landasan yang bisa kita jadikan payung hukum untuk di Indonesia. Yang mungkin next. Nah, dalam tadi Mas, ya next. Next. Nah, ini ketika kita berbicara online learning itu kita bisa membaginya dalam 5 kategori. Yang pertama adalah not interested, yaitu institusi atau lembaga kependidikan yang tidak tertarik dengan adanya online learning, bahkan tidak menjadi sebuah opini. Learning itu dianggap negatif. Ini kategori yang pertama. Yang kedua, non strategic online. Nah, di sini institusi which have some online offering. Ini institusi sudah mengenal yang namanya online, tapi dia tidak mau atau menggunakan strategi ini. Bahkan strategi online dianggap tidak baik. Kemudian yang ketiga itu adalah kategori kampus yang sudah melibatkan online learning, sehingga pada saat ini kampus ini memang belum memiliki sistem online, tapi dia sudah menganggap bahwasanya online adalah offering in the future, sebuah perkembangan atau sesuatu yang sangat menjadikan untuk yang strategi untuk jangka panjang. Kemudian yang keempat adalah institusi yang sudah menggunakan online, tapi sayangnya institusi ini belum menggunakan pendidikan, education learning itu tidak dijadikan sebagai strategi formal dalam dalam perencanaannya, sehingga walaupun sudah menggunakan online teknologinya, tapi masih belum mengaplikasikan online learning dalam kependidikannya institusi. Nah, yang kelima adalah full engaged, yaitu institusi atau lembaga yang sudah connect dengan internet atau online dan di situ full, ya. Institusi ini menggunakan strategi bahwasanya online education atau online learning itu adalah merupakan sebuah pemikiran, sebuah perencanaan yang harus dilaksanakan dan dalam aplikasinya pun harus dilaksanakan. Jadi dari 5 kategori ini adalah nanti bisa kita lihat kita posisinya ada di mana. Next, Mas. Nah, ini ada temuan-temuan yang yang saya cari di Kominfo dan Kompas sebagai salah satu sampel saja, bahwasanya di Indonesia itu ada 150 juta orang, ya, itu sudah menggunakan internet. 150 juta, artinya apa? Artinya masyarakat kurang lebih 50% itu harusnya sudah siap apabila online learning ini dijadikan sebuah planning, sebuah perencanaan sehingga nanti bisa memperluas untuk institusi kita ataupun untuk memperluas dari sistem dari online learning atau pembelajaran tersebut. Next, Mas. Di sini juga kami menemukan, ya, student taking online system cost increase by 3.9%. Nah, ini menunjukkan bahwasanya perkembangan ketertarikan siswa itu meningkat, ya, meningkat. Derajat selalu meningkat dan meningkat. Pada saat 2015 ini saya dapatkan data itu perkembangannya 3,9%. Dan saat ini bisa kita rasakan bahwasanya setiap individu, tadi mungkin semua speaker, semua pembicara sudah mengeksplor bahwasanya kita sepakat bahwasanya hampir semua lini kehidupan kita sudah menggunakan internet. Artinya dalam kategori siswa pun semakin meningkat untuk memilih bahwasanya pendidikan online adalah sebuah pilihan. Yang kedua, ada temuan bahwasanya online learning itu sangat fleksibel, ya. Dan itu tadi sudah dicontohkan dengan WAG, WhatsApp group, ya. Itu ada lagi dengan YouTube. Ini sangat fleksibel sekali. Sehingga kalau misalnya kita bisa memberikan edukasi pada mahasiswa, edukasi kepada calon mahasiswa bahwasanya online learning adalah sebuah pembelajaran yang sangat bagus, maka mereka pun secara bertahap akan bisa menyadari bahwasanya online learning itu lebih mudah dan bisa untuk menjadikan pembelajaran yang sangat bagus. Kenapa? Karena pembelajarannya bisa diulang-ulang dan lain sebagainya. Namun, ya, ini ada temuan dari salah satu dosen dari UNY tahun 2017, hasil dari pembelajaran yang tadi tertarik meningkat secara signifikan, itu juga ada sesuatu yang memberikan dampak kurang baik, yaitu ternyata mereka yang memilih pendidikan online itu ada drop out atau tidak bisa menyelesaikan studinya dari 25% hingga 50%. Nah, hal ini merupakan sebuah tantangan kita semuanya, bagaimana kita nanti sesuai judul saya adalah long term planning, perencanaan jangka panjang, ya, long term online learning plan. Kemudian kita juga menemukan bahwasanya the development of college was influenced by online learning. Perkembangan perguruan tinggi itu sangat dipengaruhi oleh online learning. Kenapa? Karena kita nggak bisa menampik bahwasanya hampir semua anak, hampir semua individu itu mempunyai yang namanya gadget. Dan itu semuanya terkonek dengan internet dan semuanya adalah online. Nah, hal ini merupakan sebuah sebuah pemikiran yang memang harus kita aplikasikan dalam sebuah planning jangka panjang. Bahwasanya online learning adalah sebuah strategi. Nah, hal ini merupakan tantangan kita semua. Inilah temuan-temuan yang bisa saya share, yang nantinya mungkin bisa kita adakan sebuah konsorsium pertemuan lagi baru, sehingga nanti kita bisa membuat sebuah strategi yang mungkin bisa kita perlukan dengan aplikasikan bersama. Next.
Okay, Bapak. So I think we have a limited time, so we can.
Hello.
Hello, Bapak. So can we go to the last slide because the time is up?
Okay. Okay. Oke, ini ada teman-teman, ada tanggapan mata kuliah, bahwasanya saya melakukan riset ini beberapa waktu lalu sebelum ini adalah kuliah 93% itu mahasiswa masih memilih kuliah tatap muka. Artinya apa? Online learning kemarin yang kita lakukan pada masa dampak itu ternyata ada sebagian banyak yang tidak setuju, dan hal ini adalah hasil dari penelitian yang kemarin saya ajarkan sebuah kecil-kecilan. Next, Mas, karena mungkin sudah diburu waktu ya. Ini ada kata-kata mahasiswa, next aja lah ya, next aja ya. Ini guru atau dosen pun memilih ya. Di sini ada saya sebutkan, menurut Bapak Ibu, jika ada pilihan antara pembelajaran online dan pembelajaran tatap muka, pilih yang mana? 87%. Ini dosen. Jadi dosen dan guru dan murid itu semuanya lebih mengarah pada tatap muka online. Artinya apa? Ini adalah sebuah tantangan. Next. Nah, ini kata-kata guru atau dosen. Next aja. Nah, ini diklik sampai habis dulu ya. Nah, ini saya sebelum conclusion saya ingin sampaikan ini. Karena yang ingin saya sentuh, karena mohon maaf tadi di perkenalan belum saya sebutkan, tulisan saya itu selalu berkaitan dengan tauhid sosial, tasawuf dan lain sebagainya. Makanya di sini kondisi saat ini mungkin Bapak Ibu bisa melihat bahwasanya ada kekerasan fisik, korupsi, nepotisme yang merupakan hasil dari pembelajaran masa lalu. Yang sekarang menjadi pejabat itu adalah hasil produk-produk masa lalu. Dan itu kondisi saat ini. Tawuran antar pelajar, penyimpangan seksual, narkoba, dan di sisi pendidikan itu sekarang ini lebih ke materialis kapitalisme gitu. Kemudian nilai tauhid itu landasan pengetahuan budaya, norma etika dan sudah sedikit bergeser. Kemudian memudahnya nilai-nilai tauhid. Nah, ini di samping itu ada tantangan revolusi industri, teknologi, informasi dan sebagainya. Kalau lihat kita alurnya ini, ya, jadi online learning ini transformation of education, perubahan pendidikan ini yang kita taruhkan online learning ini bisa nggak menyesuaikan dengan kondisi ideal, yang menciptakan kondisi ideal, sehingga problem yang muncul itu tidak bisa dieliminasi, bisa dikecilkan kembali, dikecilkan lagi, sehingga tercapailah kondisi ideal. Bisa nggak online learning ini bisa menciptakan atau merumuskan produk kurikulum yang sangat luar biasa, yang nantinya bisa menjadi panduan atau menjadi patokan dari semua institusi yang ada di Indonesia. Next, Mas. Ini tantangan ya, tantangan tadi mungkin saya kira sudah disebutkan semua, cuma ada satu yang ingin saya sampaikan di sini, yaitu masalah esensi vs seremoni ya. Pendidikan kita ini yang kita lakukan saat ini mau esensi atau mau seremoni, atau mau hanya kelihatan ada aktivitas saja, atau mau esensi. Kenapa ke esensi? Karena ketika kita bicara esensi, maka achievement of learning objectives seperti yang disampaikan oleh Ki Hajar Dewantoro, transfer of knowledge, transfer of attitude, dan transfer of culture itu menjadi tidak tercapai ketika kita online learning ini hanya dijadikan sebuah saja. Saya tidak berbicara, tapi itu bukan memang hanya absen pakai WA diketik namanya absen dah selesai. Mahasiswanya kemana? Gitu. Maka banyak cara-cara yang nanti bisa disampaikan ketika online learning kita mau bentuknya bagaimana sehingga online learning itu benar-benar menjadi ketercapaian dari pembelajaran itu bisa benar-benar tercapai. Kalau transfer of knowledge itu it's okay, no problem gitu loh. Tapi ketika transfer of attitude, transfer of culture itu bagaimana kalau kita tidak bersentuhan langsung? Kenapa? Karena emosional kita nggak kelihatan oleh mahasiswa. Nah, ini yang menjadi PR kita bersama. Ya. Ini adalah tantangan, challenge of online learning. Okay. Next, Mas. Nah, ini yang abad 21, ya, pendidikan abad 21 diarahkan dengan adanya tantangan, ya, revolusi industri 4.0 atau sekarang sudah ada muncul 5.0. Nah, ini kita masih baru mencari problem solving, tapi 5.0 sudah di hadapan mata kita. Nah, ini maka pembelajaran kita mau diarahkan kemana? Maka yang pertama kita harus ingat critical thinking of problem solving skills. Ya, berpikir untuk menjadi kritis dan mencari problem solving. Ya, ini adalah skill-skill yang memang harus ditanamkan ketika kita menghadapi revolusi industri 4.0 maupun yang sudah menjelang 5.0. Saya kira ini nanti bisa next saja. Ini conclusion ya Mas ya, biar sudah jam 1. Conclusion and recommended. Ya. Online learning ini kalau menurut hemat pemikiran kami, bahwasanya online learning adalah sebagai strategi pembelajaran dan sebagai long term strategy of college. Nah, jadi sebuah perguruan tinggi itu harus mempunyai strategi yang sangat panjang, ya, ketika sudah berhadapan dengan online learning. Nah, jadi di sini saya bagi menjadi dua, yaitu bagi pembelajaran, online learning adalah salah satu strategi dalam proses pembelajaran, salah satu. Makanya kemarin kita sudah menyimak dari yang international conversation sesi one session dan second session ini, bahasanya blended learning itu adalah salah satu solusi. Namun, ya, saya masih berpikir bisa nggak kalau misalnya online learning itu bisa melebihi dari blended learning? Cuma tantangannya tadi, apakah transfer of attitude, transfer of culture bisa nggak tersampaikan melalui online learning. Kemudian bagi kampus, online learning merupakan strategi jangka panjang, the long term strategy, untuk meluaskan jangkauan kampus dan atau service order. Ini saya mengingat waktu ikut kajian Muhammadiyah di PP 2 Ramadan lalu, bahwasanya rektor UMS waktu itu mencoba melaksanakan kuliah online di antara yang di Kalimantan Timur, UMS, dan saat itu kami di Jakarta. Itu adalah suatu bentuk yang sangat luar biasa, terobosan yang sangat luar biasa. Kemudian saat itu kami sudah sempat menanyakan bahwasanya berapa biaya untuk menyiapkan itu untuk satu kelas di misalnya di tempat saya. Itu waktu itu dijawab sekitar 40 juta. Artinya apa? 40 juta itu bisa meluaskan jangkauan dari perguruan tinggi kita. Nah, ini kan sangat luar biasa, terobosan yang sangat luar biasa. Oleh sebab itu, kami dari STKIP Muhammadiyah Oku Timur yang letaknya sedikit jauh dari kota, Prof. Harun kesini aja dari bandara masih 6 jaman. Nah, ini sangat welcome sekali ketika kampus kami ini bisa dijadikan salah satu long term strategi dalam bentuk unity of partnership of Muhammadiyah College yang kedua, yang konklusi kedua. Jadi kita perlu unity of partnership of Muhammadiyah College. Jadi perguruan tinggi kita bersatu, unity, ya, kemudian bisa mengaplikasikan dari long term strategi ini dalam rangka untuk apa? Untuk menjangkau mahasiswa-mahasiswa yang jauh, dan ini merupakan strategi yang sangat luar biasa. Makanya online learning ini sangat luar biasa. Kemudian yang terakhir, untuk mengantisipasi yang tadi yang menjadi tantangan pada saat online learning itu adalah bagaimana kita bisa mengintegrasi, interkoneksi dalam redesign kurikulum online learning antara moral dan pengetahuan. Mungkin enough, I think enough, Mas. Thank you very much. Maybe the time is over. Thank you very much, Mas.
Okay,
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Abdul Mohid. Okay, so the last speakers of the today's conference is Ibu Siti Halimah. Halo, assalamualaikum Ibu. Bu Halimah, assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Ibu Halimah was born in Samudra, Sentra Kalimantan. She is a lecturer at Faculty of Teacher Training and Education from STIKIP Muhammadiyah Sampit. He graduated from STIMIK Muhammadiyah Sampit for a bachelor degree and then pursued a master degree from Universitas Darwan Ali. So, Ibu Siti Halimah, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am from STKIP Muhammadiyah Sampit. Activities of learning using discussion methods. Online learning is that utilizes digital technology as medium between teacher, student, and student. The online discussion method is strategy defining learning. On the online discussion method is strategy preparing and learning and by strategy offending generation idea and ideas carried out by and student through technology affect online learning. Ini aja. The use of online discussion group method in learning is one of the effort to keep the learning process effective. Research method quantitative descriptive is first to describe the research. That clustering technique question are with nominal skill yes or no in total spent item. Subject of the research, student who took introduction of management subject. That analysis technique categorization is used to analyze the data. Result based on the result of the analysis, the main was was over 10.285 instead devious with 1.93x. The frequency distribution of a data can be seen in discussion based on the result of the study. It can be consolidated that the effectiveness of learning using online discussion method in learning in the category of is very effective. Thank you very much. Terima kasih, kembalikan ke moderator.
Okay, thank you so much Ibu Siti Halimah for the presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to the last question and answer session. I'd like to have only one question from the participant because we have a limited time. So any question from the participant? Hello?
Ini.
Sorry, you can unmute your Zoom if you want to ask directly to the speaker. Any question? Okay, so I think we got a question from Dwi Pratiwi Kasmara for the speaker. The question is how to increase the enthusiasm of students to study in the COVID-19 pandemic while learning only through virtual. Sometimes students who attend lecture are only 1/9 of the student of the number of students.
Yes.
So how to increase the enthusiasm of the student?
Sudah bisa. Kalau ada yang bertanya.
Maybe Ibu Ernita, would you like to start to answer the question?
Excuse me.
Okay, I try to answer how to motivate the students. So this is my experience, not point of view of that. Sorry, not a point from the teachers. This is just point of the lecturer. As for me, when I design the teaching lesson, I do not force the students. You have to complete it. All this exercise. What I want is at least they understand one topic. This is satisfied me. So I don't want to force them to complete all the materials because we have to remember that this is distance learning. We have to remember about their the students' capacity. This is because of the internet connection. This is because of the quota, as I said before. So I didn't force to complete all the materials. So I just using sometimes WhatsApp to continue for my online learning because this is very limited time and lack of feedback. So I feel like when I teach the students, I feel like no students giving feedback to me because I'm the only one who talks. So I sometimes I limit my online teaching, and then I just continue for using the WhatsApp because I teach the teach the writing. So I sometimes use the WhatsApp platform to learn. So I ask the students to write like one paragraph. So sometimes one students, I know this is wasting time because I have to continue for one students until he or she can understand my topic. I think that's all.
Thank you so much, Ibu Anita, for the answer. So anyone would like to ask directly to the speaker? Please open your...
Excuse me.
Oh, sure. Okay. Okay, Mas Ahmad Taufik Nur Hasan.
Yeah.
Please welcome.
Okay. Thanks. My name is Ahmad Taufik from Majene, West Sulawesi.
Wow.
Okay. I want to ask. So, we all know that when the student use the gadget, many students more interest for playing games or social media or anything else like that. So my question is how to make students more interest and spend more time on subject materials in education, in gadgets, than games or social media.
Okay. Thank you, Mas Ahmad Taufik Nur Hasan. So a lot of students are more interested on playing game or social media. So how to make sure that student can also motivate on teaching and learning? Any speakers would like to answer? Maybe Bapak Abdu or Ibu Alfia or Ibu Siti Halimah. Jadi siswa itu.
Maybe I answer.
Oh yes, sure Bapak.
Okay. Tanggal berapa? itu sebuah realitas yang memang ada ya di lingkungan kita. Bagaimana semua mahasiswa, bahkan para siswa, kenapa ini ya?
Ayo Pak.
Ya, saya lanjutkan. Semua siswa atau mungkin everybody in every home, ya, pasti selalu main gadget. Itu tidak bisa enggak. Nah, oleh sebab itu ini adalah sebuah tantangan kita. Kalau mereka sebenarnya sudah siap dengan gadget, artinya mereka sudah mempunyai skill untuk mengenal ikon-ikon, mengenal sistem, mengenal cara, ya. Dan kita bisa memoles bagaimana kesukaan mereka itu bisa kita gunakan. Contoh ketika mereka senang dengan YouTube, mereka itu memanfaatkan YouTube untuk membuat sebuah video kreasi, membuat sesuatu yang menarik, temuan baru. Mereka bisa berekspresi sangat luar biasa dan bebas, gitu, ya kan? Tentunya kita memberikan parameter-parameter, undang-undang, perhatian-perhatian, bahwasanya kita tidak boleh melewati hal-hal yang demikian. Kenapa? Karena bisa melanggar undang-undang IT kan gitu. Nah, itu perlu kita sampaikan edukasi. Makanya tadi sebenarnya ada salah satu slide yang ingin saya sampaikan. Itu kita ada perubahan paradigma, ya. Paradigma yang penuh dengan permainan online, kita ubah menjadi bahwasanya itu adalah sebuah potensi yang sangat luar biasa. Jadi inti yang ingin saya jawab adalah mereka sudah mempunyai potensi, tinggal kita bisa mengemas dengan potensi-potensi di mana mereka suka medsos dan game. Itu. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Bapak Abdul. So, Ibu Alfia or Ibu Siti Halimah, any other answer or suggestion?
Okay, I will try to add more answer. Okay, maybe like Mr. Abdul Muhid say that this is the reality that we face. Our students, that we use online learning, but they are biased in the other entertainment tools. It's one of the phase that we have. The main problem that student has. So I think the most important is our effective approach. So the effective approach is to make the online learning as fun as the entertainment tools do. So maybe the student will look back to the online learning that we already give to the student, so they more fun in learning, because the tools that buys from the student is for entertainment. Even us always do the same. We learn up. We are focused to the something, and then we attract by entertainment things. So that's what we have to do in learning, in online learning, that we have to make the online learning as fun as the entertainment tools. Okay, that's all I think that.
That's good. Thank you, Ibu Alfia. So, Ibu Siti Halimah, any other suggestion or answer?
Terima kasih, moderator. Memang di sini memang tidak bisa kita pungkiri ya, pada saat perkuliahan aja mahasiswa itu juga menggunakan gadget. Nah, di sini seperti penelitian saya juga, ini saya memanfaatkan aplikasi WA itu untuk media media diskusi mereka. Jadi bagaimana kita mengemas mahasiswa ini bisa tetap senang mengikuti perkuliahan. Nah, disinilah kita bisa melakukan penerobosan menggunakan gadget tadi ya. Jadi menggunakan teknologi digital, kita bisa mengemasnya seperti yang saya lakukan ini. Saya membuat diskusi, mana diskusinya melalui WhatsApp tadi. Jadi Mungkin itu aja, moderator. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry, pakai bahasa Indonesia.
No worries. Okay. Thank you so much for the question and also for the speakers. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank you so much to the speaker for informative and interesting presentation, Ibu Ernita, Ibu Alifah, Bapak Abdul, and Ibu Siti. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, finally we come to the end of our conference. We would like to say very thanks to presenters for the insightful and wonderful presentation, and also to audience for your contribution.
Makasih banyak lah Pak Ijala.
Okay.
Terima kasih dari awal
I have for today. Let me summarize what the speakers thought. Okay. Our students have been forced to give up so much of what makes schools fun for them, and are now expected to keep up with their studies from home, often with spotty or no high-speed internet. However, there are no doubt many lessons that our students have learned during this time. They are witnessing history. The hope is that the students remember that when put to the test, our school teacher and students were flexible, resourceful, resilient, and creative. And because of that, we have a bright future indeed. Inshallah. Amin ya rabbal alamin. So online learning is not the next big thing. It is the now big thing. From Donna J. Abernathy. And then please give applause for the speaker and for you all. Thank you very much. But before. For certificate, it will be available on lptkptm.org. Please check the website this evening. And then before we close the conference, please open your camera. We have photo sessions today. So please. Okay. You can raise your hand and hands up. Okay, like this. You can follow me like this.
Like this.
Okay. Raise your hand and 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Thank you so much for you all.
Okay. Thank you so much for the speakers and the participants. Hopefully, the presentation will be beneficial for everybody. On behalf of the committee, I would like to extend our gratitude to all of you in making this conference a success. I will you have a great day. Thanks for your attention, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.